brilliant. His whole education was on scholarships and awards. It's amazing that we have the history of a man as brilliant as in our genes practically. It's his gift to the family.
Dedication equal to devotion. He was always researching, studying, reading, and lots of his articles were submitted and they were in journals. He had a great love for bacteriology. His life was actually devoted to studying, researching, improving the health of mankind.
He started off the first local scientist in the Institute of Medical Research and eventually become the director himself. And one of his special areas was in salmonella. And interestingly enough, that also became my favorite subject for my earlier research and so on. When I told my medical colleagues and the head of the division is Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, he said, you must work very hard because he's very serious, very disciplined.
Inspirational. He always wanted to help people despite their race or religion, and he was always focusing on the B40s and the young and needy. And inspirational more than just that, but it transformed my life.
Still clearly remember the thrill that I got it when I had the call from the Academy of Science Malaysia. This unexpected gift that I got it. With the grant, I could finish my master's really well. I actually wanted to say thank you to the Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Research Grant for helping me during my early careers.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2024 Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Memorial Lecture and the RBS Research Grant recipient announcement. In the honorable memory of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, the Medical Research Endowment Fund was established to support education for the underprivileged regardless of their race or religion. The Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Research Grant, a yearly initiative administered by the RBS Medical Research Trust Fund, aims to grant a young Malaysian scientist the opportunity to engage in medical and biomedical research. Please join me in welcoming Professor Sheila Nathan, ASM's Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee Chairperson to present her introductory speech. She will also introduce our esteemed invited speaker for the memorial lecture. Professor Sheila Nathan, please welcome.
Thank you, Encik Nazmi. Yang berbahagia Academician Datuk Dr. Tengku Azman Sharifuddin, President of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia and STI Advisor to the Prime Minister and the Nation. Yang Berusaha Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor of International Affairs, Tsinghua University, and Speaker of the 2024 RBS Memorial Lecture. Dr. Dharamveer Goodrell, the family representative of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, representatives from the ministries, institutions, organizations, fellows of the Academy of Sciences, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the 2024 Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Memorial Lecture and announcement of the 2024 RBS Research Grant recipient. The late Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, as you have just heard, was a prominent research scientist and held the position as the director of the Institute for Medical Research. He made invaluable contributions to medical and scientific research, and as you will hear from the family members later, Dr. Ranjeet bequeathed his entire estate to the Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund. The two main activities that are run under this trust fund are the awarding of the RBS Research Grant annually to one early career scientist from Malaysia, while the second is the RBS Memorial Lecture. Now, this morning's event will begin with the 18th RBS Memorial Lecture to be given by Professor Kehkooi. Professor Kee, a self-declared kampong boy, was born in Setiawan and then moved to Johor Bahru. And after that, once he completed his secondary education, he went to pursue his bachelor's and master's degrees at Iowa State University in the United States. He then undertook his doctoral training at Weill Cornell University and conducted his research with the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. He then went on to complete postdoctoral positions initially at Sloan Kettering, and then he traveled across the US to the West Coast, where he took up a position at UCSF, followed by a research associateship at Stanford University. Now, over this period that he spent in the US, he was recognized or gained recognition as an expert in the field of human stem cell technology and was also awarded multiple awards, including one from Malaysia, recognizing him as a Malaysian scientist who has excelled. So this then led to him taking up a position at Tsinghua University in Beijing, China, to assist the university in establishing a stem cell research center. He currently holds the position of tenured professor at Tsinghua, as well as assistant chancellor in charge of international affairs. So we are indeed privileged to have Professor Kee deliver the 2024 Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Memorial Lecture. Professor Kee.
Honorable Tengku Dato, respected scientists, selamat pagi. This is such a high privilege and honor to me to deliver this memorial lecture. When I was invited to this lecture, I learned about Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, about his dedication to science and his attitude toward promoting science in Malaysia, especially donated his estate to our scientific community promote science. So I highly respect to that attitude. And I think our young scientists should learn from him how we do and conduct science. Thank you. And thanks for the kind introduction, Professor Nathan. So today, I have the duty of introducing stem cells and the progress of stem cell. So I was told that I shouldn't give too much details about the research experimental data. Instead, introducing the progress of stem cell in our fields, especially the global development of stem cell. So I think what I would like to do, especially in the first section, is to give you an introduction of stem cell, especially from the beginning, how we develop and how we venture into the research of stem cell. I have 2 pointers. Let me see. Okay, so the first slide, I usually begin with why are we studying stem cell? Or why do we spend so much research, especially billions of dollars, including USA, China, in the last 20 to 30 years, spend so much money on these topics. So in this picture depicting the original ideas of using stem cell for regenerative medicine, you can see that the source of stem cell actually come from embryonic stem cell. If I can point to that. On the okay, the pointer doesn't work well. Anyway, you can see that from the Brussels stage at the right-hand side, there's a group of about 200 cells or so, which we call inner cell mass at the embryo stage. So in vivo, this inner cell mass will develop into an entire embryos, different cell lineage, different tissues and organs. But for us, as a stem cell scientist, we would like to have this inner cell mass, culture them in vitro, and propagate them in vitro to maintain their potency at this stage, so that in the future, we can use these pluripotent embryonic stem cells and then direct them, differentiate them to different functional cells at the terminal stage. For example, blood cells, heart muscle cells, neuron, and liver cells. So if we can do that, directing different cell type, functional cell type, then we can use it for medicine to replace defective organs, to cure different diseases, right? Including Alzheimer's disease, spinal cord injury, cardiovascular disease, rheumatic arthritis, all these diseases. And at the bottom of this slide, I have a quote from Professor Douglas Melton at Harvard University, who actually invented the methods of differentiating stem cell to pancreatic islet, which can secrete insulin and treat diabetes. So Douglas Melton, about 20 years ago, before he successfully derived pancreatic islet, he said that one reason stem cell capture the imagination of so many is the promise that understanding the unique property of these stem cells give us deep insight into the biology of cells and development, as well as a path towards treatment of a variety of regenerative illnesses, right? So in this quote, you can see that the ultimate goal will be to treat some illnesses or diseases. But in the process of developing these different protocols or different methodologies, we actually have the opportunity to understand more about ourselves especially at the early stage of development. Right. So I would like to also give you this slide showing the impact of using stem cell for biological research. So this is taken from the PubMed statistic, and the accumulation of publication using a keyword of stem cell. So from 1967 to 2022, accumulation of 524,000 of publication for this using stem cell as a subject, research subject, and including MSC, including embryonic stem cell and iPS, which I will explain more about. And so during this 50 years or now 60 or 70 years now, there are different milestones happening, especially in 1998, where scientists in that year, Professor Jamie Thompson from University of Wisconsin in United States, successfully revived human embryonic stem cell and cultured them on the Petri dish in vitro. This is the big milestone for the scientists. And then in 2007, Professor Shinya Yamanaka from Kyoto University, he invented iPSC, so-called induced pluripotent stem cell, and then he won the Nobel Prize in 2012 because of the iPSC. That I also will introduce a bit more about iPSC. So since then, there are so many development, and many of the stem cells are already in the clinical trials. But there are also hypes about stem cells. Can we use the stem cell and cure everything, all the diseases? This is sometimes controversial and raise many concerns from different communities. Okay. It's not easy to control. Okay. Let me, before I go into more about stem cell therapies, I'd like to first get us on the same page of the terminology of stem cell. So when I talk to different scientists, when they mention stem cell, they actually have a different understanding of stem cell and referring to different type of stem cell. So sometimes confused with different cell therapy that are available at this stage. We heard about CAR T treatments. They are actually immune cell therapy. This is a special kind of therapy, taken the immune cells from the patient and to cure the cancer such as lymphomatic cancer. And these cells are actually immune cells, such as T cells, not stem cell, right? This is the immune cells. So when we talk about stem cell therapy, we are referring to a special type of cells maintaining their pluripotency and self-renewal. And we also can divide this stem cell therapy into two different categories. The most stem cell therapy that people are referring to or on the news, on the market, are mesenchymal stem cell at the bottom. So you might have heard about transplanting these stem cells costing thousands of dollars or sometimes millions of dollars for one treatment. Is it really effective? This is one kind of therapy, stem cell therapy, using MSC, subform of mesenchymal stem cell, and do a transplantation directly into human body. And then there are actually many other kind of stem cell that the scientists are developing, including what Douglas Mellon have developed, deriving the functional cells, such as pancreatic islet, from pluripotent stem cells, such as ESC and iPSC. So this is what I show in the middle, transplantation of differentiated cells or organoids into our bodies after they got differentiated in vitro, right? So when you transplant the cells into the human body, they are not stem cell anymore. They are functional cells, differentiated organoids. So this is safe for transplantation. And there are two very important characteristics of stem cell that we, by definition, should be fulfilled before we call it stem cell. First one is self-renewal. So stem cells should be able to propagate and maintain the original properties, including special enzymatic activities such as telomerase activities at the high levels. And then second, more importantly, is the potency of cells. So this stem cell should be able to differentiate or turn into different cell types, including heart muscle cells, liver, and neuron, and so on. So when we talk about potency, let me give you more introduction about this, which is very important to understanding the cell properties. So according to the developmental stage of our bodies, the earlier stage, we have fertilized egg, and then totipotent stem cell. This stem cell has the ability to give rise to the whole organism, including the embryos and placenta. Then, if they further develop into blastocysts and become inner cell mass, these cells now reduce the potency to pluripotent, what we call pluripotent. And this pluripotent stem cell, including embryonic stem cell, iPSC, they can still differentiate to about 200 or so different cell types in our body, right? And this is the left-hand side. And you can see the reduction of potency along the developmental pathway. Then the right-hand side, we have hematopoietic stem cell, neural stem cell, mesenchymal stem cell. They are all adult stem cells in our body, right? We might be able to harvest some adult stem cell in our body, but not always, especially when in the aging population, it's very hard for us to harvest more adult stem cell, right? So you can see that the more differentiated or more developed cells, they will have less potency along the way. So the potency is usually restricted by the developmental stage of the stem cell, and from early embryogenesis are generally able to differentiate more cell type, okay? Right. Let me, because of the time, I usually give lecture for a whole semester, so I just condense everything into about 40 minutes. So today I'd like to introduce two types of stem cell, two major types of stem cell. On the right-hand side, we will cover first the MSC, which have been used in many clinical trials. Then we will go back to the embryonic stem cell. So in the adult tissue, as I mentioned just now, MSC, mesenchymal stem cell, is actually one type of adult stem cell. There are other adult stem cell, including stem cell at the hair follicles, intestine, and bone marrow. And in about 1992, Professor Kaplan started to coin the term of mesenchymal stem cell because he successfully derived mesenchymal stem cell from bone marrow, starting from mouse animal models. And he was able to take out this MSC and culture them on the Petri dish, propagate them. And actually the morphology of this MSC look quite different from the embryonic stem cell. They look more fibroblastic on the culture dish. And in those original experiments from the bone marrow MSC, they're able to differentiate them into osteoblasts, chondroblasts, and adipoblasts cell type. So only the mesoderm lineage, and then stroma cells and other cell type. And following Professor Kaplan, there are also other scientists claim that they can actually harvest different MSC from different tissue in our bodies, including adipose tissues, placenta, skin, and dental pulp and all that, different adult tissues. But then scientists found that it's hard to repeat, to have the same original MSC, same properties or differentiating potency as the bone marrow MSC. So in this field, in the field of stem cell, it get more and more confused because of the cell heterogeneity. It's quite heterogeneous if you collect the cells from different adult tissues, as you can imagine. So although there are many clinical trials began in the early 20,000, so they are not very successful in terms of using MSC and directly transplant them into the human body. Although they are publication-wise, there are so many publications, about 3,700 per year of using MSC alone. And also, at the same time, after collecting different sources of MSC, scientists are trying to use it directly for treating different diseases, including multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, rheumatic arthritis, and all these different diseases belonging to the immuno-related diseases. And then in the middle, tissue protection, also trying to protect our liver or Alzheimer or neurons in the Alzheimer or Parkinson diseases. And also further, some scientists even try to just transplant MSC and hope to cure diseases such as autism. So to me, it's a bit far-fetched to use this without further evidence. Well, slow to that respond to my press. So if you look at a review published in Nature in 2018, summarizing the progress of clinical trials. Especially in the United States, FDA, about 350 clinical trials using MSC to treat the patient and in different diseases, right? About 350 US companies selling the MSC as a product in the markets. And then they found that there are actually high heterogeneities among this MSC from different sources using the MSC. And they don't really share the molecular markers. Both the result and the quality of MSC-based clinical trials have been underwhelming in the record of US FDA up to 2018. I think the main problem and main obstacle, if we understand the cell property, is the heterogeneities collecting from different cell sources. And we have to expand them a lot before we can use it. Usually when you collect the cells from a bone marrow, you can get 10 to the 6 or 7 cells from one sample. But you need to expand them more and more to 10 to the 8 or 10 to the 9 cells before you can transplant to different patients. So in this process of expanding, it requires a high reproducible protocols or GMP facility, and not all producer or manufacturer have the ability to maintain the cell property at the initial stage. So then a society, International Society for Cellular Therapy, they suggest that there should be a higher regulation or tight regulation, especially according to the property of MSC. There should be plastic adherence and maintained in standard cultures, and must have the ability to differentiate into adipogenic, chondrogenic, and osteogenic cells, and also have cellular markers on the cell surface of this population. And they must not have the hematopoietic markers. So we can tell a difference between the hematopoietic stem cells and the mesenchymal stem cell. Well, along the way, researchers or scientists are also trying to understand why we have so much, how does the MSC, after they transplant into the body, become effective or have any effective treatments to different diseases. So after many years of research, I think there are a few papers that really give us better evidence of explaining the mechanism of how the cells actually work in our body. For example, on the right-hand side, published in Science Translational Medicine in 2017, they show that the MSC, after we transplant them into the human body, mostly reside in our lung and livers. So after we inject them into our body, they usually reside and go to these two organs. And when the cells reside in lung or liver, they are recognized by our immune cell, macrophage. So when our immune cells recognize these foreign cells transplanted in our bodies, they will try to lyse them, treating them as an enemy, right? Lyse these foreign cells. And so this is what we call the eat me mechanism of MSC. They actually the MSC sacrifice itself to release factors such as the immune modulation factor, TGF-beta, IL-10, IDO. This factor can reduce the immune reaction, right? So this is with scientific, concrete, solid, many animal evidence and cellular evidence. So I think this is the right mechanism that we collected from all this data. So if we understand the cell property of MSC now, then you can imagine they are still effective for certain diseases, such as immune-related diseases, GVHD, graft versus host disease. So this should be effective using MSC. But other diseases, we are not quite sure. Especially originally, people claim that MSC, once you transplant into the body, they can differentiate into different cell type. We haven't seen those evidence published in literature. Now I'd like to turn your attention to another type of stem cell, which has been used as a gold standard for us to develop many protocols, including iPSC. On the left-hand side, embryonic stem cell. So this is the left-hand side is a publication by Jamie Thompson in 1998. First publication on the human embryonic stem cell. So you might want to ask the question of where does this cell came from? Where does the inner cell mass come from? They actually came from a donated frozen embryos. So in United States. So Jamie Thompson group took this donated embryo and cultured them on the Petri dish on the mouse embryonic fibroblasts inactivated. So what you are seeing here on the right-hand pictures was the embryonic stem cell culture and cluster in the number of thousands, and as looking like islands of cells, and then surrounded by this nurturing map to support the growth of ESC, keeping them undifferentiated at the inner cell mate stage. So after Jamie Thompson get this cell line, and they distribute worldwide to different scientists, and we use it even in our lab. So since 1998 until now, we are still propagating this embryonic stem cell. So in theory, if we maintain the ESC in a good culturing condition, they should be able to be propagated indefinitely and use it. So whenever we want to do experiment or develop a protocol, we just took that from a frozen liquid nitrogen tank and then thaw them and culture them, expand them, the cell line. So it has become many cell lines. And in worldwide, we have about at least 59 different human embryonic stem cell lines. This is in early 2004. So there must be more than 59 human embryonic stem cell lines from different labs in the world. And we participate in this study using human embryonic stem cell. At that time, I was at UCSF. So giving the ESC line from UCSF and then compare them to all different human ESC line with different laboratory, we found that the conclusion is properties of this embryonic stem cell are actually quite similar in terms of their pluripotency, the ability to differentiate to different cell type. But if you look in details, the epigenetic status, such as the DNA methylation at the imprinting loci, are significantly different. So the property, if we want to study the molecular biology of this cell line, they are still different. But in terms of differentiating to different cell type, that could be used. And then another kind of pluripotency stem cell that I'd like to introduce is induced pluripotency in iPSC, invented by Professor Shinya Yamanaka. And you can imagine if we want to use embryonic stem cells for treatments or the differentiated organoid from embryonic stem cell, we would have to solve the problem of immune rejection, right? So if you derive the cells from different cell line from different human beings, then the organoid will be rejected. But if we have the opportunity to turn or to derive the stem cell from the patient himself, right? So if we can take a skin biopsy and then turn them to become a stem cell, reverse the developmental stage to an early developmental stage, then we have the opportunity to direct them to the cell type that we want. And this is what was done by Yamanaka. He found 4 different transcription factors of 4SOX2, KLF4, and CMYC, 4 different transcription factors. By overexpression of this transcription factor in skin cells or other adult cells, those terminated cell type in adult body can be reversed to become a pluripotent stem cell. So sort of gaining a youth again for this different cell type. Even for those age of about 60, if you get a human biopsy sample from a patient of about age 60, you can still reverse them to become pluripotent stem cell type. So this not only solves the problem of getting the source of pluripotency, but also solve the problem of immune rejection. So the same cell type, then if you differentiate into adipose or functional cell type, you can transplant to the same patient. So after the invention of iPSC in 2006, many people using the same strategy, finding the key factors, deciding the cell fate. For example, neural cells, if we find the determining factors, then we can change the cell fate from a skin cell to neural cells or blood cells, different cell types. So you can look at different papers using the same strategy, inducing them to the functional cell type, ultimately hoping to use it in different diseases. Then from 2011 and until now, another strategy has been developed. Not only we want to have one cell type differentiated from stem cell, we want to have the whole tissues or organoid, so we can transplant them into the body because of the functions and connecting to the whole system, including our blood system and neural system. So efforts have been made and successfully, for example, the left-hand side, we have cerebral organoids successfully derived from pluripotent stem cell, and also human pancreatic islet-like organoids, right? So published in Nature. And quickly going to this year, and 2024, in China, there's a group using iPSC from a diabetic patient, and then derive them first as a collecting the PBMC from the patient, and then turn them into HiPSC, induced pluripotent stem cell, then differentiate directly to endoderm stem cell, and finally to pancreatic islet, which can secrete insulin according to the blood glucose level in the human body. So they pass through the animal test preclinical trials, and then transplant them back to the same patient. Then after about 48 weeks of following up with the same patient, they found that they become independent of the insulin injection. So it has been up to the publication of this study is 120 weeks. From 48 to 120 weeks, the patient has been free of animal insulin injection. So this is the good news, that we finally get to the point that we are able to use a functional cells derived from stem cell. So let me recap and just summarize the two main strategy that we have heard about. First, the mesenchymal stem cell, direct injection of using the MSC collecting from bone marrow, adipose tissues, after expanded them in vitro, and then inject or transplant them back to the human body directly as a stem cell. This is the first strategy. I think so far there's so efficacy to treat immune-related diseases such as GVHD, and the future usage might be limited to this kind of diseases. Then the second strategy that many scientists, stem cell biologists are still working on to develop different protocols are the iPSC-derived organoid therapy. So starting from a patient, you get an iPSC, therapeutic iPSC, then you derive to the necessary or the targeted cell type that you need, and then transplant back to the patient. This is the second strategy. And so efficacy to treat diabetics at this moment, but they are expanded to many other diseases, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson, and so on. And then in the future, it can be expanded to many other diseases. Depends on the cell type developed by the scientists. So these are the two summaries of the main stem cell therapy nowadays available to us. So I would like to also introduce a bit about, as a stem cell biologist, using the stem cell to do our research to help the infertility patients. So why do we need reproductive organoids? And about 15 to 18% of married couples actually suffer infertility in many countries, including USA and China, and including azoospermia, premature ovarian insufficiency, and PCOS and extras. So if we can use this ESC and then differentiate to different disease model, then first, that will help us to understand the pathological mechanism. First, to identify and make sure those associated mutations are actually causative. And then to produce, the second goal will be to produce functional sperm or oocyte for patients suffering from infertilities. So in our laboratory, we have been developing different in vitro differentiation protocols referring to mimicking the in vivo development of human stem cell or reproductive development. So as you can see, the earliest stage of germ cell, human germ cell, started in week 2 of gestation. And then primordial germ cells, after primordial germ cell was specified, then they migrate to the genital ridge, then undergo a limited number of mitotic expansion. Then they will go into sexual differentiation under a special microenvironment. The onset of meiosis are actually different in female and male. In the female ovary, the germ cell will undergo meiosis in fetus stage, whereas in the male testis environment, the meiosis would not be initiated until puberty. So this is a rather long process and complicated process involving different cell type and microenvironment and factors. So can we actually mimic this whole process using human embryonic stem cell as a pluripotent stem cell? So after years of effort, we actually differentiate the cells using many molecular tools and cellular tools, including gene reporter system. We inserted GFP reporters with a promoter into human embryonic stem cell line, and then we induce them with different factors, and finally have a protocols of differentiating from the embryonic stem cell all the way to haploid spermatid. So this is our one recent study using this in vitro differentiation protocol. We identify an RNA binding protein DAZL, which can regulate the proliferation of human primordial germ cell by direct binding to precursor microRNA, a non-coding RNA, and enhance dicer processing activity. I wouldn't go into details about this, but this study, for clinical perspective, we now are trying to synthesize mRNA, which can be turned into protein and then hope to cure germ cell tumor, ovarian germ cell tumor. As we know, if the PGC, primordial germ cell, is defective in development, they would raise the possibility of become a tumor in human ovaries or testes. So in this study, once we understand what is the key factor or key protein regulating proliferation, we can actually use that in the future development of drugs treating cancer, germ cell cancer. Also, for male infertilities, we are mimicking the seminiferous tubule in our body, which is the microenvironment producing sperm. And as we know, in a seminiferous tubule, there are different developmental stages of male germ cell, starting at the basal membrane of spermatogonia stem cell, and then after they go into meiosis, become spermatocyte, and then mature sperm. So if we can mimic them in the in vitro differentiated system, then we would like to differentiate separately using the embryonic pluripotent stem cell. At the left-hand side, differentiate them directly to Sertoli cell, which is the supporting cells in seminiferous tubule. And then at the right-hand side, differentiating them to male germ cells and co-culture them as to obtain the functional sperms. Then this is, someone can help me to play the movie short clip. This is what we have built as a seminiferous tubule in vitro, as a 3D cultures having the Sertoli cells. So we are now testing the germ cell, which we differentiate along co-culture them with this tubule, and ultimately want to obtain this sperm, mature sperm, for the azoospermia patient. Along the way, we also collaborate with many hospitals, especially the IVF hospital or OBGYN hospital, when they identify many associated mutations. They are not sure about whether those mutations are causative or not. So we can now use a human-based in vitro differentiated ES cells to germ cell system and to understand the pathological mechanism of this mutation. And lastly, I'd like to share with you certain more creative aspect of stem cell in terms of using them, which initially we never thought of using this stem cell. We have this opportunity to test using this in vitro differentiated culture in a petri dish to test them in a special physical environment. In this case, in the space station, Chinese space station. So the goal is to ask a question, to address the question of how does the physical condition, such as gravity, radiation, magnetic fields in the space affect human bodies, especially reproductive system in our case. But we also collaborate with other scientists to differentiate them to different, for example, pancreatic islet. Then at what level would the physical condition change the biological activities, right? This is unanswered questions for all the scientists in our field. How does the space effect occur in the biological system? So we have the opportunity to participate up to now 2 different launch in 2017 and 2022, and using the embryonic stem cell differentiation system. Yes. From undifferentiated ESC to the PGC, and then ovarian follicles and male germ cells. So we work with engineers, space engineer, to develop this automated system, and then to put our cells into the system. This is the module that we have, so we can culture those ESC with the automated culturing system, also taking pictures to observe the morphology of the cells in space. And then after we finish the experiment in space, and we collected the cells back after they came back to the Earth, then we analyze and see if there's any differential effect on the cells on Earth and in the space. So we are analyzing multi-omic properties of using multi-omic analysis to figure out the difference. So lastly, if you can play the movie at the right-hand side. So that was in 2023. Well, okay, thank you. Well, besides using stem cell, using molecular biology tools, genetics tools, and all this to develop these protocols, we know that there are so many other technologies, for example, biomaterial, bioengineering, and now AI era has come to us. So how do we integrate all this new technology to develop these new protocols is our next development, and we are working closely with other engineers and other disciplines to finally hope to achieve the goal of developing different protocols for the benefit of patients. This is AI-generated pictures, ChatGPT. I asked the GPT, what would the future look like when you combine AI yourself with stem cell biology technology, right? So this is the picture the AI gave me. He imagined that this is the future in the laboratory with organoids and the computers and all that. And after all, I'd like to say that with so many new technology, including AI, we still have to come back to our original purpose of doing biomedical science using stem cells is to the benefit of patients and to develop efficacious treatments to the patient and to the benefit of treatment, the patient suffering from different diseases. If we can give them effective treatments, they would have freedom of moving around, doing what they want to do, enjoy their life, and have a better life. All right, thanks for listening. I will stop here and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kehkooi, for the enlightening presentation just now. We are now taking questions from our audience. We can have 1 or 2 questions before we proceed to the next agenda.
Hi, thank you, Prof. I'm Rajesh from UPM. Quite an interesting talk. I'd like to have your opinions on mesenchymal stem cell. At the moment, for research, even for compassionate therapy, people are using the mesenchymal stem cell, and the quality control of the mesenchymal stem cell based on passage. And when we have different type of passage, one is a closed tubular system where you don't passage them, it grows continuously. The other one is the flat system, whereby we split the cell for many passages. So how the passage actually contribute or influence the quality of the mesenchymal stem cell? Because in one end, we split them enzymatically, the other one is continuous. So it is a cell cycle. When you put the cell in the in vitro, the cell continuously grow, it affects the telomere ranks. So how these two things impact the quality of the cell for the potential clinical trials and research? And the other question is, I have 2 questions, sorry. And the minimal criteria for the mesenchymal stem cell, it was coiled 2006, right? Until now, there is no major, change in the criteria. However, and I think it's quite old, and even some tumor cells do express the criteria defined for the MSC. So what are the new markers or new criteria that's supposed to be considered as a cell biologist to be used in cell therapy? Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. So first question is about how do we expand the number of MSC in vitro, yet still maintain the original property of MSC, especially if we want to use it as a treatment. And this is what I believe your question is. So I think when we culture MSC or other type of ESC, iPSC, we have to remember that when we took the cells out from our body, from the in vivo environment to the in vitro environment, we're actually artificially keeping the cells in the stem cell stage. We rely on the factors or molecules that we add to the media to maintain them, right? And then also the nutrients, all this. So are we able to maintain them well, especially the MSC? If you really want to maintain them as an adult stem cell compared to the original stage that you took them out, it's not easy. It might be the same challenge task compared to ESC. So in human embryonic stem cell, we can use basic FGF and all these factors to maintain the undifferentiated stage. But for MSC, we use different factors. But when we compare maybe passage 5 to passage 50 after you expand so many times, it seems to be different in a way that they are functional or not when you treat them, put them into animal body. So I think the best test will be to test them in the animal models of preclinical trials to see after expansion, can you still see the same efficacy? Otherwise, if you just use the molecular marker in your second question, all those CD73 and all this, you might see the same expression after passaging them for many times. They still have high expression of the cell surface marker, but they might already change the properties of secreting the effective factors such as TGF-beta, IDL, and all those. So I answer your question in combining the two questions together. Right? If you have further questions, we can discuss later. Thank you.
And we have our second question from Dr. Farid.
Hi, Prof. Kee. Thank you for the talk. Very impressive work you have done. My question is about the ethics when it comes to stem cell research, in particular when working on the embryonic stem cells. Because I think when working with ESCs, at least the public will perceive it as, murder because you need to destroy an embryo to generate the embryonic stem cells, right? Yeah. So in your opinion, is there still place for ESCs given the advent of iPSCs that you can generate these pluripotent stem cells now? And maybe a bit of your input on how the ethics should develop so that it supports the development of stem cell research.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, indeed, the controversies of ESC actually started when in 1998 when Jamie Thompson successfully used it, and in US, I was in US at that time, and different administration have different decision in terms of how to limit the use of embryonic stem cell. But if they are consent, if those embryonic stem cells are consent donated embryo, for example, from the Jamie Thompson laboratory, those are with ethical passing or approved by the ethical board. So those ESC could be used in the clinical trials in US or in other countries. But in other, some countries like Japan, they actually limit the use of embryonic stem cell. Instead, they allow iPSC to be used for therapeutic purposes. So I think it depends on the governments. But in terms of the pluripotency, now I would say that the ESC and iPSC have the same pluripotency in terms of the number of cell type that you want to derive or differentiate to become a functional cell type. So if there are more controversy, I think you can use iPSC. But yeah, in those countries where both cell types are allowed, for example, in China, either one can be used.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Professor Kehkooi, for the presentation. And also thank you to our members of the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, our guests of honor will be arriving shortly. We kindly ask for your attention and cooperation as we prepare to welcome them to the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem, Negaraku. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Yang Berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI. Yang berbahagia Datuk Teknologis Dr. Haji Aminuddin bin Hasim, Secretary General of MOSTI. Yang berbahagia Academician Datuk Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin, President of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, also serving as the Science, Technology and Innovation Advisor to the Prime Minister and the nation. Yang berbahagia Datuk Teknologis Dr. Muhammad Noor Azman Hassan, Deputy Secretary General of Technology Development, MOSTI. Yang Berusaha Professor Dr. Sheila Nathan, Chairperson of the ASM RBS Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee. Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor International, Tsinghua University and Speaker of the 2024 RBS Memorial Lecture. Dr. Dharamveer Godre, Family Representative of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh. Representatives from the ministries, institutions and organizations, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum and welcome to the 2024 Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Memorial Lecture and the announcement of RBS Research Grant recipient. To bless our gathering today, I invite Mr. Farid Farihin to recite the dua.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ya Allah, on this blessed day, in conjunction with the RBS Memorial Lecture and announcements of RBS Research Grant recipient, we beseech thee and grateful towards you, in favor of all the infinite blessing upon us. We seek your blessing for a flawless progress of this event, from the beginning till the end. We seek your guidance to steer clear of the event that will be detrimental to the progress of this event. Ya Latif, Ya Rahman, kindly give us strength and courage to face the struggle, to find and gain knowledge. Give us strength to our teachers and our leaders to continue to serve for people, society, nation, and religion. Bestow blessing for our physical and spiritual health, creative of mind and strength of the spirit. Ya Rahim, Ya Wadud, Ya Allah, remove all conflicts and hatred that is happening. Grant peace and restore human dignity in this world. Save this earth from destruction due to human ignorance. Grant our country and the entire world with safety, peace, calmness, tranquility, progress, and development. May this day of ours be better than yesterday. May our tomorrow be better than today. Please grant us positive outcomes in all our endeavors. Save us from disappointment both in this world and in the hereafter. Allahumma jam'al jam'ana hadha jam'a marhuma wa tafarruquna min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al fina wa la ma'ana shaqiyan wa la matruda wa la mahruma. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you, Mr. Farid Farihin. Ladies and gentlemen, to commemorate today's event, please direct your attention to our photographer on the stage who will take our group photo. Thank you for your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, especially to our guests of honor, here is a brief recap of this morning's program. The program began with an introductory speech by Professor Dr. Sheila Nathan, followed by the memorial lecture, which was delivered by Professor Kehkooi. Professor Key's lecture explored the transformative role of stem cells in biomedical research and regenerative medicine. It covered the unique abilities of stem cells to renew themselves and develop into various cell types, their importance in understanding development and disease, and their groundbreaking applications in repairing tissues and organs. Additionally, the speaker discussed the ethical and regulatory challenges in this field, emphasizing the importance of responsible practices. Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful legacy of the late Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh continues to shine brightly in our hearts today. Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh's vision of providing education and support to those in need fills us with warmth and hope. His passion and dedication fuels our journey towards a healthier and brighter future. Today, we are honored to welcome the representative of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh's family, Dr. Dharamveer Godre, whose presence reminds us of the love and compassion this remarkable individual shared with the world. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Dharamveer Godre.
Good morning and salam Malaysia, Madani. Yang Berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI. Yang Berbahagia Dato' Dr. Haji Aminuddin Hashim, Secretary General of MOSTI. Yang Berbahagia Dato' Dr. Muhammad Noor Azman Hassan, Deputy Secretary General, Technology Development of MOSTI. And then Young Mulia Academician Dr. Tunku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin, President of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, also serves as the Science, Technology and Innovation Advisor to the Prime Minister and the nation. Professor Sheila Nathan, Chairperson of the ASM Dr. Ranjeet Singh Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee. Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor, Tsinghua University, China. Senior Fellows and Fellows of ASM, distinguished representatives from the ministries and institutions and organizations, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I am Dharamveer Singh Godre, a nephew of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh. It is an honor and privilege to have this opportunity on behalf of my entire family to share with you all the personal legacy and inspiration of our beloved late uncle, or Uncle Doctor, as he was affectionately and respectfully around the home. When I was asked if I would give the address, I must admit that I was somewhat daunted. Where does one begin to talk about the immense impact upon one's life from a strong influence like that of Uncle Doctor? So many anecdotes and stories that link to more anecdotes and stories and so on and so on. Such was very much the unique signature of the DNA, full of seemingly never-ending wisdom, insight, and answers if you knew where and how to look. Upon the reflection, then, I became even more daunted, as I am in no way a carbon copy of his molecular makeup, and I generally recoil at such speaking engagements, even avoiding speaking at all three of my children's weddings. But Then, after a brief panic, I realized that I must play to my strength, and should this short speech of mine quite literally put the room to deadly silence, such conditions is where I indeed excel as a medical pathologist. And I have comfort knowing that following this engagement, the speech will surely be the subject of a rigorous post-mortem by family members and perhaps coffee and tea chats about genetic traits by the many scientists in the room. So good times ahead. Well, resilience, pragmatism, and commitment, not necessarily in that order, are the three virtues that I am ingrained by Uncle Doctor in my younger days, staying at the family home along Jalan Aman in Kuala Lumpur. In the early 1960s, myself and my childhood friends used to get to all sorts of mischief in the neighborhood, including stealing fruit from gardens, playing cops and robbers on the buses around KL, and general bicycle tomfoolery. One such incident with my little brother falling off the handlebars, resulting in what I will politely call a severe reprimand from Uncle Doctor. The minute Uncle Doctor car turned into the street at the end of the day, general panic would ensue, and even my friends would be diving for cover in the bushes, all the while yelling out, "Chachaji coming." Such was his presence in those days to us, feared but respected. Tomfoolery would end, and we would wash up and start study indoors. My garden in those years were pretty. My grades in those years were pretty average and definitely nothing to shout about. Around the same time, he traveled to Edinburgh for his PhD, and I have a very fond, distinct memory of overhearing a phone call between a close family friend and Uncle Doctor. He was in Scotland, and perhaps it was early days in that adventure, but he was challenged by the cold weather and I guess a bout of homesickness. It sounded like he wanted to give in, but he was impassioned by his family friend to stay on and see it through. Soon we would hear about his accolades and achievements in Scotland. And around the time I was in Form 4D at the Cochrane Road School, it resonated with me. Why can't I achieve that? I knuckled down and marked until I topped the whole Form 4 and was promoted to Form 5A. I remember my senior Cambridge results in Form 6. Uncle Doctor, in Form 5, Uncle Doctor drove me to get the results. When I got my results, he was very happy, and I remember the tremendous feeling of pride from his endorsement. I knew already at this point that I wanted to do medicine, and he helped me chart that path in India. And later, upon return to Kuala Lumpur, specializing in pathology had not been my first choice. Ophthalmology had caught my eye. However, in those days, as is very much still the case today, having a scholarship or grant to pursue your future with less financial encumbrance is a weight off the shoulders. So as I gaze at the death of a career as an ophthalmologist, with Uncle Doctor still being an omnipresent force guiding my decision-making, I was rather ironically rewarded to have a scholarship at University of Malaya in 1974 to pursue pathology. At that time, I had just been married for 2 years, and our first child had also just arrived. My wife and I were now staying with Uncle Doctor at his home in Section 5 in Petaling Jaya. Periodically, when I think back upon this now, I am enamored by his generosity and commitment to our family. He would spend time collecting flowers, plants, stamps with my eldest daughter when she was small, teaching her how to press the document and document these samples, a memory she carries with her until today. He was still fierce when when need be. As I recall my wife and I being reprimanded when our daughter caught a cold, the microbiologist's sworn enemy. Uncle Doctor had never married, nor had children. His focus was his wider family of brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, and now grandnieces and nephews. However, the wider Malaysian scientific community was also his family and an important part of his philanthropist legacy. His DNA lives on still, and hopefully for a good many years to come in the future through these auspicious grants and lecture series. It is the spirit of these few quips and anecdotes shared with you all today about this man, Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, that we in our family have immense pride that his legacy of giving and inspiring the scientific community of Malaysia has place and home with the Academy of Sciences. To all the recipients of this honorific grant, past, present, and future, we are ever indebted to you for continuing his legacy and quest for knowledge to cement and grow Malaysia's place in the global scientific community. Even more importantly, from my own humble personal experience, learned from a great man, I am fortunate to call uncle to all of those who may not have succeeded this time in the application. Stay pragmatic in your cause, be resilient through adversity, and stay committed to yourself and your community. Balance will prevail, rewards will come. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing such beautiful fond memories. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us welcome Yang Mulia Academician Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin to the stage to deliver his speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Good morning to all. Salam sejahtera. Yang berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Aminuddin, Secretary General of the Ministry. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Nur Azman, Deputy Secretary General of the Ministry. Yang berusaha Professor Dr. Sheila Nathan, Chairperson of the ASM RBS Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee. Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor, International, Tsinghua University, and Speaker of the 2024 18th RBS Memorial Lecture. Dr. Dharamveer Godre, Family Representative of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, ASM Fellows, representatives from the ministries, institutions, and organizations, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure to welcome all respected guests, scientists, and researchers who are joining us in the Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Memorial Lecture and the announcement of the award winner of the RBS Research Grant 2024. A special thank you to YB Tuan Chang Lih Kang, Minister of Muslim, for officiating this eventful ceremony, and to all those who have made it possible. Today, we commemorate the lasting legacy of the late Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, whose generous donation for the advancements of science is to be celebrated and emulated. We warmly welcome Dr. Dharamveer Godre, and other family representatives for their kind presence. Earlier this morning, we were privileged to gain new insight from a lecture delivered by Professor Kehkooi, who's now at Tsinghua University. Professor Key highlighted the transformative potential of stem cell research and regenerative medicine, a field of growing importance for Malaysia as we seek innovative treatments for chronic diseases and injuries. I had to miss half your talk, unfortunately, because I had to work out for something else. I also shared with Professor Key that I visited China for the first time in 1987, and it was to Tsinghua University. It is very ironic to tell you the story because they wanted me to give a talk on how Malaysia was developing an electronics industry. It is ironic because now we have to learn from China how to do it. So thank you again, Professor Key. Ladies and gentlemen, the Academy of Sciences Malaysia is honored and privileged to be entrusted with the responsibility of managing the RBS Research Grant. The late Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh was himself a prominent medical researcher. He established an endowment to support young scientists in the medical and biomedical fields. This year, we received 84 research proposals that address contemporary health-related challenges in genomics, biotechnology, and the treatment of diseases such as cancer and non-communicable diseases. Our grateful thanks go to the Selection Committee Chairperson, Professor Shiranathan, and all committee members for picking out the best proposal worthy to be funded. Given that all of us in the room are interested in the future of science, I would like to take this opportunity to walk you through a snapshot of the challenges that we face in our nation. The situation is not as good as it should be. First, the national R&D expenditure is hovering around 1% of GDP when it should already be around 2%. Second, about 70% of the total expenditure is borne by the government from public funds. Private sector contribution is only 30%. In more developed countries and economies, the respective proportions are the exact opposite, with private funding making the bulk of R&D expenditure. Third, as a consequence of both the first and second points, the country lags in innovation. Despite having a relatively high output of research findings, as reflected in publications, much of this knowledge is not being put to use. Fourth, scientific talent that we produce are not getting the high-value work that they deserve and are well prepared to handle. Some have moved to other kinds of work, while others have moved to greener pastures elsewhere. Just watch, see what Professor Key has done. Fifth, challenges 1 to 4 collectively are creating an atmosphere among the school children that STEM education may not make sense. Interest in STEM is declining at an alarming rate. Let me run through 3 initiatives that ASM is undertaking to improve our science system. Of course, this is not enough. First, ASM has been entrusted with the task of establishing the Malaysia Science Endowment, MSE. This R&D fund is designed to promote and accelerate collaboration in science, technology, and innovation. In particular, closer collaboration between researchers and the private sector to carry out experimental or translational research will stimulate innovation. The government has generously provided the initial investment to kick off the fund, with an equal amount to be raised from other sources, such as the private sector and partners from around the world. I'm pleased to report that the results achieved thus far are very encouraging. We anticipate to be able to raise more than the planned amount from non-government sources. Even so, money alone cannot buy good science or good economic and social outcomes. We have to create thriving ecosystems for knowledge discovery and application, trusted relationships between key collaborating partners, and an enabling governance framework that promotes creative thinking and innovation. The second program sees ASM working closely with MOSTI and the Ministry of Economy to roll out a roadmap to develop national ecosystems for research, development, innovation, and commercialization that may lead to positive economic and social outcomes. We need to bring key stakeholders to collaborate in a trusted network. I have to keep repeating the word trusted because there is not enough trust in the system. To share knowledge, to discover new ways of innovating, and ultimately to create economic and social value. Innovating to create new solutions has become more urgent in light of challenges posed by biodiversity loss, climate change, and widespread pollution. In an interconnected world, no nation, either big or small, has the capacity to singly tackle them. Global cooperation and collaboration is essential if we want to come out safely from this impending crisis. In the third initiative, ASM has been mandated to produce the National Planetary Health Action Plan, which is expected to be ready soon. This action plan seeks to re-establish the connection between humanity and our planet, emphasizing the importance of a balanced and sustainable ecosystem for disease prevention and overall health. Human health and well-being are intrinsically linked to the health of our planet. A sustainable and healthy environment provides safeguards for all forms of life, which will in turn foster human health and prosperity. For instance, advancing medical sciences in cooperation with nature is more likely to lead to long-term human health outcomes rather than an approach that merely seeks to control and manipulate nature. Addressing planetary health requires us to adopt the emerging notion of post-normal times. Contemporary society has normalized many inconsistencies, contradictions, and anomalies that have brought the global community to the existential crisis that we face today. The complex interconnections between human well-being and the natural systems that sustain us can no longer be seen from the old paradigm based on empiricism, determinism, materialism, and narrow specialization. Instead, we need to build a new kind of post-normal science that integrates the different kinds of knowledge into a holistic framework, recognizing not only the natural sciences, but also human and social sciences, and includes as well indigenous, traditional, and local knowledge. This is the path forward for science to shun norms that have become anomalies and build new science systems that have the refreshed capacity to save mankind, humankind, and planet from almost certain disaster. At a more conceptual level, ASM is pleased to take the lead in fostering meaningful conversations towards creating a new paradigm for science and the humanity that it serves. Ladies and gentlemen, although Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh is not with us, his spirit lives on. We have gathered here today to celebrate science and to share thoughts on how to move it forward for the sake of humanity. We are truly grateful for his foresight and generosity. Finally, I congratulate the recipient of the 2024 RBS Research Grant, who will be announced shortly. May your success inspire other young researchers and scientists to come forward with even more life-changing research in the future. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum and thank you.
Thank you, Yang Mulia Academician Dato Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin for the insightful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to invite the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Yang Berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang, to deliver his speech.
Good morning, Salam Malaysia Madani. Yang berbahagia Datuk Teknologis Dr. Haji Aminuddin Hasim, Secretary General of MOSTI. Yang berbahagia Datuk Teknologis Dr. Muhammad Noor Azman Hassan, Deputy Secretary General of MOSTI. Yang Mulia Academician Datuk Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin, President of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, also serves as the Science, Technology and Innovation Advisor to the Prime Minister and the Nation. Professor Sheila Naden, Chairperson of the ASM Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee. Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor of Tsinghua University, China. Senior Fellows and Fellows of ASM, distinguished representatives from the ministries, institutions and organizations, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Malaysia strives to become a high-tech nation by 2030, MOSTI remains committed to driving value creation and impactful research towards a sustainable future. A key area of focus in this endeavor is medicine and healthcare, which are critical to enhancing the well-being of our society. In 1982, through an agreement with the National Council for Scientific Research and Development, NCSRD, the Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh RBS Medical Research Trust Fund was established. Dr. Ranjeet's initial contribution of 50,000 ringgit was just the beginning. He subsequently bequeathed his entire estate, valued at approximately 1 million ringgit, for this annual purpose. Therefore, let us take a moment to honor the late Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh, a true visionary and philanthropist in the medical and health sciences field, whose legacy continues through the Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund. Since its inception in 1997, this trust has funded over 28 research projects and 11 technical workshops worth around 862,265 ringgit towards nurturing young researchers and supporting research initiatives in the medical and biomedical sciences field. MOSTI, as the custodian of the Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund, is dedicated to continue this legacy. Dr. Ranjeet's philanthropy is a historical act of generosity and a vital component of our national strategy to secure alternative funding for research, development, and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, building on Dr. Ranjeet's legacy, Malaysia's contributions to medical research continue to gain recognition on the global stage. In 2023, Malaysia hosted over 1,200 sponsored clinical trials, significantly increasing from previous years. This growth positions our country as a key player in clinical research in Southeast Asia, particularly in therapeutic areas such as oncology and infectious diseases. The achievement of RBS Research Grant recipients have been instrumental in this progress, as they have made significant strides in vaccine development, cancer research, disease prevention, and public health initiative. One of the distinguished recipients of the RBS Research Grant is Dr. Un Chen In, who was honored in 2014. Dr. Un's groundbreaking work in molecular targeted therapies for cancer has earned her international recognition, including the prestigious L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science National Fellowship in 2015, the Professional Achievement Award at the Study UK Alumni Awards, as well as the Young Women Scientist Award from the Malaysia Invention and Design Society, MINDS, in 2020. Her pursuit of excellence continues to push the boundaries of medical research, earning her Excellent Service Medal from the Ministry of Higher Education. Another recipient is Associate Professor Dr. Tan Jun Jae, a stem cell biologist from University Science Malaysia, USM, who was awarded the RBS Research Grant in 2022. His research, published in the esteemed journal Nature Communications in August 2021, explores how to improve heart cell function using stem cells. This topic resonates with the memorial lecture by Professor Kehkooi earlier today. Dr. Tan's work exemplifies the kind of high-impact research that the RBS Research Grant is designed to support. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look ahead to empowering Malaysia's position as a leader in global research, we need to align our efforts for personalized medicine and digital healthcare with national niche areas of the 1010 MySTIE framework launched in 2020 by the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, alongside the National Policy on Science, Technology and Innovation 2021 to 2030. Strengthening our R&D infrastructure in those fields prepare us for future challenges and positions Malaysia as a hub of cutting-edge medical research. Investing in R&D drives economic growth by fostering innovation, creating high-tech jobs, and enhancing global competitiveness. Personalized medicine and digital health advancement have transformed the medical research landscape. Malaysia must leverage these advancements to develop innovative solutions tailored to its unique health needs. As previously highlighted, alternative funding sources such as philanthropy are vital to sustaining our research, development, and innovation efforts. Mostly through ASM is actively building momentum for the Malaysia Science Endowment, MSE, a key initiative approved by Parliament in August 2022. This endowment was established as a platform to diversify funding sources for research by bringing stakeholders from across sectors to focus on mission-oriented, demand-driven R&D that caters to the nation's needs. The Malaysia Science Endowment is a cornerstone of our strategy to elevate Malaysia's gross expenditure on R&D to 3.5% to 3.5% of GDP by 2030, in alignment with the Madani Economy Framework and the National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2021 to 2030. By combining philanthropic efforts such as the RBS Medical Research Trust Fund with strategic initiatives like the MSE, we can bolster Malaysia's research capacity and cultivate a culture of innovation that propels future growth. To further this vision, we welcome philanthropic contributions such as the RBS Medical Research Trust Fund. By supporting MSE, contributors can play a crucial role in advancing science and technology in Malaysia, ensuring that research with significant national and global impact continue to thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor International at Tsinghua University, China, for sharing your expertise through the RBS Memorial Lecture. As a Malaysian scientist contributing significantly to the global landscape, your insights have been invaluable. I just want to tell you a secret. In fact, the organizer asked me whether I want to be present at the lecture of Professor Key, but I thought I don't want to torture myself. Not that I could understand. So I have decided to skip. I'm sorry. But thank you, Professor, for coming all the way from Tsinghua University to give us that sharing. So I would like to also thank everybody for organizing this. And I would like to conclude by highlighting that leveraging grants such as the Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Research Grant is essential for empowering our researchers to pursue research, fostering a culture of innovation, and advancing Malaysia's health landscape. I look forward to the impactful research undertaken by this year's RBS Research Grant recipient. We remain committed to supporting and investing in our research community, driving forward with a shared vision of excellence and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang. Kindly remain on stage for the announcement ceremony. I now invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' Technologist Dr. Haji Aminuddin bin Hasim, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nur Azman bin Hassan, Yang Berbahagia Academician Dato' Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin, and Professor Sheila Nathan to join the Minister on stage for the announcement ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a round of applause for the recipient of the 2024 RBS Research Grant, Dr. Muhammad Farid Nazir bin Muhammad Faruqo from University Malaya. For your information, Dr. Muhammad Farid's winning research is titled Investigating EV Bodies, Bioengineered Extracellular Vesicles as Nano-Neutralizing Agents against EGF in Attenuating EGFR-Driven Lung Cancer. Thank you to our guests of honor. You may return to your seats to listen to Dr. Muhammad Farid Nazir's presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon. Salam Malaysia Madani. Yang Berhormat Tuan Chang Lih Kang, Minister of MOSTI, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Technologist Dr. Haji Aminuddin Hasim, Secretary General of MOSTI, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nur Azman Hassan, Deputy Secretary General Technology Development of MOSTI, Yang Mulia Academician Datuk Dr. Tengku Muhammad Azam Sharifuddin, FASC, President of the ASM, also serves the Science, Technology and Innovation Advisor to the Prime Minister and also to Malaysia. Professor Sheila Nathan, Chairperson of the ASM Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh Medical Research Trust Fund Program Committee. Professor Kehkooi, Assistant Chancellor International of Tsinghua University, China. Senior Fellows and Fellows of ASM, distinguished representatives from their ministries, institutions and organizations, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to switch to the more dynamic mode to continue with my presentation. Testing. Is it working? Okay. Testing. Test. It's not. Am I audible? All right, thank you. So before I begin, I'd like to express my heartiest gratitude and thank you to the Ranjeet Bhagwan Medical Singh Endowment and also ASM and by extension to MOSTI as the custodian for giving me the opportunity and trust to carry out this research that has been intriguing me for a number of years, and finally I've got the fund to pursue it. So without further ado, it's my pleasure here to share with you all my proposed study on investigating EV bodies, bioengineered extracellular vesicles or EVs, as nano-neutralizing agents against EGF in attenuating EGFR-driven lung cancer. So it's a bit of a mouthful, and I've been told it's intimidating, but hopefully I will take it through one step at a time. All right, so first, let's look at the lung cancer burden. So based on the data by the Global CAN, or Global Cancer Observatory, a unit under the WHO, in the year 2022, the latest survey that they did globally, the global statistics of lung cancer is as follows. So lung cancer constitutes the highest rate of incidence as well as mortality in the world. So this means that 1 in 8 of the cancer that is diagnosed in the year is lung cancer. And out of all the cancer deaths that is recorded, 1 in 5 of them is because of lung cancer. And in Malaysia, the statistic is reflected very similarly. So you can see here lung cancer in terms of incidence, it is ranked third with 10.7% of all cancer incidences, whereas in terms of deaths, it is recorded as the highest cancer-associated deaths as well. So this means that 1 in 9 of the cancer diagnosed in Malaysia for the year 2022 is lung cancer. And out of all the cancer deaths, 1 in 7 is due to lung cancer. So it's really a high disease burden in the country as well as in the world. So before we begin into this EGFR-driven lung cancer, let's revisit our, I should go a bit more to the side, our first year biochemistry on the EGFR signaling. So EGFR stands for epidermal growth factor receptor, okay? So it's a growth factor receptor that sits on the cell membranes, okay? So what it does is that when binding to its ligand called EGF, unsurprisingly, that is the epidermal growth factor. So EGF, upon binding to its receptor EGFR, triggers, all right. So this activates the receptor, they dimerize, and then it gets activated due to autophosphorylation. And what it does is that it sends signals to the cell to continue to divide and to survive. It's a pro-survival signal to the cell. So we can imagine that cancers, when they exploit this pathway, that is one of the reasons why EGFR is called a driver mutation for lung cancer. So for example, lung cancers that overexpress EGFR, they tend to have a higher number of these receptors on their cells. So when they receive stimulation from EGF, they can trigger a much higher amount of proliferation. So this then becomes uncontrolled and therefore leads to cancer. So this is what we refer to as EGFR-driven lung cancer proliferation. So looking at the prevalence of the EGFR mutations in lung cancer, because EGFR is not the only driver mutation in lung cancer, so it's important to understand the prevalence to see how relevant is this target in terms of achieving targeted therapy towards lung cancer. So looking at the extreme sides of the world, so in the European continent, about 12.8% of lung cancer cases are driven by EGFR, whereas in Asia, it's a different statistic altogether. So 49.1% of Asian lung cancer patients are EGFR driven. Okay, and what do you think the statistic in Malaysia is? It is going to be similar to that of the Asian population, which is 46.5% of our lung cancer patients have this EGFR mutation. So what this means is that almost 1 in 2 of our lung cancer patients do have this EGFR mutation. So therefore, this means that it is a highly relevant driver mutation target in order to achieve precision medicine towards lung cancer. So a group of drugs called tyrosine kinase inhibitors have been developed to target EGFR specifically, okay? So this group of drugs are called the tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So there are a number of them, and these are some examples of the TKIs that specifically target EGFR and not other tyrosine kinases. Okay, so drugs like gefitinib, erlotinib, and apatinib, these are the first-line treatments for patients who are diagnosed with EGFR-driven lung cancer. So what these drugs do is that they inhibit the activation of this downstream EGFR signaling that we talked about just now. So just a brief recap on how it does that. So this is the EGFR receptor. Upon binding to EGF, they want to autophosphorylate and activate themselves, but because the drugs are there, it inhibits this process and therefore prevents the autophosphorylation and basically just stops the cell from sending this proliferation and pro-survival signal. So there are also other kinds of therapies that have been developed to target EGFR specifically. These are called the anti-EGFR monoclonal antibodies. So imagine your body, these antibodies will travel through your body and try to find these EGFR receptors and try to inhibit them, okay? But it does it in a slightly different way. So some examples of these monoclonal antibodies against EGFR are nasitumumab and also cetuximab, okay? So what they do is, in a way, it's similar but slightly different. So these two monoclonal antibodies, they compete with EGF to bind to the receptor, okay? And when in doing so, when they bind to the receptor instead of EGF, they prevent the EGF from activating the receptor, and therefore you get a similar inactivation of the EGFR pathway. All right, so as wonderful as it sounds, currently, unfortunately, there are quite a number of limitations with current TKIs and also monoclonal antibodies targeting EGFR. So for example, with the tyrosine kinase inhibitors, resistance is the main problem. So in more than half of the patients, so 52 to 69 of our patients develop resistance to this drug and therefore develop progressive disease. The disease becomes worse in as short as 9 to 14 months following treatment, okay? So a third generation or newer TKIs have been developed called osimertinib, but this is very costly and therefore not really accessible to patients, especially in the public healthcare service. With monoclonal antibodies, similar resistance issues are encountered. So these are secondary mutations on the EGFR receptor that makes binding of these agents to the receptor no longer favorable as before. But there are also other additional issues with monoclonal antibodies. For example, immune-related adverse effects. So for example, hypersensitivity reaction, people developing allergies to these antibodies. There are also infusion reactions. So with these antibodies, patients have to undergo 2 hours of infusion weekly, and 2 hours for the first one and 1 hour infusion every week after that for one cycle. So they develop a lot of different complications at the infusion site, and therefore this results in lower patient compliance because patients just don't want to undergo this kind of treatment. So monoclonal antibodies being biologics, this group of drugs called biologics, they face a stability issue. So they are easily degraded in circulation because there are enzymes that break down proteins in our circulation. And therefore, this results to the high cost and also low accessibility to these monoclonal antibodies as well. So looking at the research gap at the moment, so definitely there is an unmet need in developing new strategy to disrupt the EGFR pathway to inhibit or basically to target this EGFR-driven lung cancer. So if you look at the current efforts so far and the current therapies so far, they are all focusing on targeting EGFR, the receptor itself, right? So why not, if we take this battle from the other side, what about if we inhibit the growth factor itself, the thing that activates the receptor, okay? So, but surprisingly, currently there are no agents available that directly target or neutralize EGF. So this is a bit surprising because this EGFR pathway is one of the first ones studied in cancer, but then there are no agents that directly target the EGF. But this is not really a foreign concept because there are actually other monoclonal antibodies that target other growth factors. So for example, bevacizumab. So this is a monoclonal antibody that targets another growth factor called VEGF-A, and also another monoclonal antibody called infliximab, which targets a cytokine, another soluble protein called TNF-alpha. Okay, so and if we were to go with this approach, so neutralizing here, neutralizing is the main strategy, and since monoclonal antibodies are the main agents that are being used currently to neutralize, so we have to overcome the limitations that we mentioned just now with monoclonal antibodies. And perhaps this is probably the time to explore novel neutralizing modality, okay, to have improved neutralizing efficacy as compared to the current monoclonal antibodies. So this is why the extracellular vesicles come into the picture. So extracellular vesicles or EVs, not to be confused with the electric vehicles, okay? So these EVs are basically these bubbles, okay? So these lipid bubbles secreted by cells, okay? So basically these are cell-derived vesicles. So nearly virtually all cells in our body secrete these vesicles, okay? They are delimited by this lipid bilayer membrane. So although they look like miniature cells, but they do not have self-replicative ability because they do not have the nucleus. So no, they won't go around the body and do rampant and develop tumors elsewhere in the body. So no worries about that. So they are they are a very diverse group of vesicles, so they can range between nanometers to micrometers in size. But my current research focus looking at the ones that is under 200 nanometers in size. Okay, so and they compose of various biomolecules. So these vesicles, of course, they contain the lipids. They have proteins that can either sit on the membrane. So these are called the transmembrane proteins, and they can also be proteins within the vesicles itself. So these are called the luminal proteins. Okay. And they can also contain various kinds of nucleic acids, DNA, and various RNA types, such as microRNA, mRNA, and so on. And they can even carry different metabolites as well, such as ATP and so on. Okay? So what they do in the body, these EVs, basically, they transfer these biomolecules within to each other as a means of intercellular communication. So what it does is that we have donor cells delivering these EVs containing these different nucleic acid and proteins into the recipient cell, upon which when they take up these vesicles together with the biomolecular cargo, results in a functional outcome that affects the recipient cell. Okay? So basically you can think of these EVs as the physiological network of Post Laju or Lalamove or DHL, pick your favorite logistic company. Okay? So basically they form this intercellular delivery network of biomolecules within the body. So think of it as hormones. So before this, we think of hormones as the ones regulating communication in distant parts of the body. But now EVs are also recognized as another means of intercellular communication. Okay? So because of this inherent role that they do, a lot of the studies on EVs are relating to understanding how they influence normal physiologies as well as pathological ones. So things like cancer, neurodegenerative disease, and so on. So because of this as well, they have this nature, the cargo is very much dependent on their parent cell situation. So for example, if the parent cell is sick or having cancer, the cargo would reflect that of the parent cell. And therefore, a lot of studies are being done to see whether EVs can be next generation biomarkers for screening or diagnostic purposes. Okay? And another application of EVs is what I am venturing into myself, is to develop them as nanotherapeutics. So bioengineering EVs. So these EVs, although they are naturally derived, there are rooms that we can use to engineer them, to design them so that they can achieve the purpose that we want. Okay. So what we mean by bioengineering here is that we are trying to alter the biomolecule composition of the EVs. And currently, most of the studies are focusing on bioengineering the proteins on the EVs, and that has also been my research interest as well. So mainly these bioengineered EVs are used for nanotherapeutics purposes. Okay, things like targeted drug delivery or understanding their biodistribution when we administer them into the body. So when we want to do bioengineering on the EVs, we normally start with genetically modifying the parent cell. And then after that, we isolate the engineered EVs, which will then have whatever engineered proteins that we want on them. Okay. So the one that I'm especially interested in is creating fusion proteins on these EVs, okay? So example of fusion proteins are here. So we have a certain protein that is fused or merged together with another entity that is not originally there, okay? So when we say fusion proteins, usually it will consist of a scaffold protein, something to anchor on the EVs. So this usually consists of a conserved or something or a transmembrane EV protein that's going to be there in whatever EVs that you isolate from. So proteins like LAMP2B or lactadherin over here, okay? And then we have the desired protein or peptides that you want to put in. So for example, if you want to do targeted delivery, people have fused this RVG peptide on LAMP2B so that they are able to cross the blood-brain barrier, okay? And then for cancer as well, certain cancers, they overexpress proteins like integrin. So the IRGD peptide can bind to this integrin and help divert the uptake towards the cancer cell. And then if you want to understand their biodistribution, like where do these EVs go when we administer them to the body? So we can even do fusion with the luciferase protein here. Yeah. So we can fuse the luciferase, the protein that basically makes your firefly glow in the dark. You can put it there on your EVs and then visualize them to see where they go in the body after you administer them. Okay, so this is what we mean by bioengineering the EV. So our hypothesis is that when we try to put these pieces together, combining the story of EGFR, trying to tackle the EGF instead of EGFR, and how do we put EVs into the picture. So first, we know that the EGFR binds naturally to EGF. So we know that this these two are the naturally jodoh lah, people say again. They are the ones that are interacting each other without anyone disturbing. Okay, and then if you look closer into the structure of EGF, we can see that actually so it's divided into three parts. So one that sticks out from the cell membrane, another part that holds or anchors it to the cell membrane, and another part within the cell that mediates the cell signaling downwards. Okay, so the important thing here, if you want to neutralize EGF, maybe it's enough to just take this part because we just want something to capture the EGF. Okay, and then thirdly, if we just take this extracellular module, or usually people call it the extracellular domain. So basically that's the ED, so extracellular domain of the EGFR. And then we fuse it to LAM2B. So this is one of the EV proteins just now. So, and then we have our producer cell express its fused protein. We theoretically should be able to isolate the EVs that is decorated with this ED-EGFR on the surface of the EV. So then we now should have a construct, a nanoscale construct, decorated with these ED-EGFR that should be able to neutralize the EGF. Okay, so therefore this brings to the study aim. Basically, that is what we want to do. We would like to develop these bioengineered EVs expressing the ED-EGFR on the surface. Okay, and this would be expressed as a fusion protein with the LAM2B just now. Okay, so ED-EGFR LAM fused to the LAM2B, and then hopefully this nano construct can neutralize EGF and subsequently inhibit EGFR-driven lung cancer cells in vitro. Okay, so that's where the term comes, EV bodies. So because usually people say antibodies, there are other neutralizing moieties as well, such as nanobodies, Fe bodies. So I thought if this is to get trajectory, I have to name it something. So at the moment, this is the best I can come up with. Suggestions are more widely welcomed. Okay, so how are we going to achieve the project very briefly? So first, we're going to engineer the fusion protein, ED-EGFR, fused with the LAM2B. And then we are going to transfect this into our producer cells, so this cell line called HEP293 T cells. We will then validate the correct expression. So making something unnatural here, fusing two proteins together. So we should check whether this is working, expressing correctly. After that, we will try to isolate these EV bodies from the HEP293 T cells. And then we will check whether this fusion, which is correctly expressed, is indeed displayed on the surface of the EVs. Okay. Having done that, we will then start to evaluate the EGF neutralizing efficacy of these EV bodies. So we'll just have a tube mix EGF with the EV bodies and see whether we can pull out all the EGF after that. And then if that works, then we will then proceed to the in vitro stage, where we will culture a lung cancer cell overexpressing EGFR called LLC. We will then treat the cells with the EGF, but then at the same time, we will also treat the cells with the EV bodies. So hopefully what we want is that we want the EV bodies to neutralize the EGF before it can get to the EGFR on the cells, and therefore we will then inhibit the lung cancer cells from proliferating. Okay. So in terms of the innovation that I hope to achieve with this project is that, number one, this is going to be a novel therapeutic modality. Okay, there has not been any report yet on engineering EVs as neutralizing agents. So mostly the bioengineering is done to achieve targeted drug delivery. Okay, and also this RBS medical grant would be a seeding fund. The overarching aim of my project is basically to develop these EV bodies as inhalable lung cancer therapy. So what I hope to achieve is that at this proof of concept stage, if it's working, then I would like to proceed it further so that this can be given to patients via inhalation. So something like a nebulizer or inhaler to overcome these infusion reactions, all these limitations, administration limitations associated with current therapies. Okay, so hopefully with this local or more direct administration of the agent to the lung cancer, we reduce off-target effects and also improve patient compliance. In terms of the impact, what I hope to achieve with this project is that first, we have an improved efficacy. So monoclonal antibodies are the gold standard neutralizing agent at the moment. So this is what I hope to achieve. So if we compare the EV bodies with the monoclonal antibodies, so these monoclonal antibodies, these two Mickey Mouse ears here, is the only region that it can use to bind to your target. So for example, if this were to bind EGF, then one molecule of the monoclonal antibody can only neutralize 2 molecules of EGF at the moment. Whereas if we have it in a nano construct on the EV bodies, for example, one EV body can have hundreds of these ED-EGFR motifs. So if let's say this can neutralize 1, can neutralize 100 compared to that 2. So 1 is enough. So the efficacy of 1 particle is equivalent to 50 molecules of this molecular antibody. So we hope that with this higher valency, we can achieve the same similar therapeutic efficacy with a much lower dose. Okay, and because of that, we hope that we can reduce therapy costs, adverse effects, and complications. And also, this EV Bodies is a very versatile platform. So actually, I just want to develop this as a tool. So it really is a plug-and-play platform. So right now, I'm trying to start the project as a proof of concept to neutralize EGF. Okay, but virtually, we can replace the ED-EGFR with any motif that you want to target or neutralize any other factors that you want. So for example, if you want to target the VEGF-A just now, you can change this to the extracellular domain of the VEGFR receptor, for example. Okay, and it can also be, so therefore, these EV bodies can be adaptable to neutralize any target for any disease that will benefit from this neutralization approach, even for infectious diseases, okay, just like how the neutralizing antibodies are working for COVID. All right, and then it can also be a multimodal platform, so you don't have to put the ED of any receptors. You can put in any synthetic peptides that you know can bind to any other target with even better efficacy. For example, you can have them have more than one specificity. So you can have ED-HFR, another targeting moiety, so that one particle can neutralize more than one target. So it's really a versatile platform here. All right, so I guess that's the end of my presentation. I hope I'm still within time. So I'd like to again express my deepest gratitude towards ASM, who is managing the RBS Fund, and also by extension to MOSTI for giving me the opportunity to start this new research line in my research group. And also to my collaborators, Dr. Fendi from UMBI, who's going to be our cloning and molecular biology expert, Dr. Aini, who's going to be looking at validating the inhibition of the EGFR pathway, and also Prof. Kurur Al-Jamal from King's College London, my previous PhD supervisor, who is happy to take this further to the in vivo or preclinical stage once we are done with the preclinical, the in vitro proof of concept. All right, so with that, I thank you and look forward to further discussions in the lunchtime. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Farid Nazir, and congratulations again for securing the 2024 RBS Research Grant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this distinguished gathering and honoring the memory of Dr. Ranjeet Bhagwan Singh. We uphold his legacy by advancing research, supporting innovation, and fostering academic excellence. As we conclude this event, we invite our guests of honor to follow our diligent ushers to your lunch venue.